because we're talking about Carson Wentz, and there's very little about Carson Wentz that is exciting. But he had been on the auctioning block out of Indianapolis, and we have a bidder. We have a winning bidder. Now, if you didn't see this, and maybe you actually have a life, and you're not in my position where I have a financial interest in following this crap, so maybe you missed it. So Carson Wentz has been traded for the second consecutive year. He gone. Every year we should have Carson Wentz play for a new team. So he was traded from the Indianapolis Colts.
He gone.
To the Washington Commanders. Yes, that's a dopey name. But the Washington Commanders for a second and third round pick in the 2022 NFL draft, a third rounder in the 2023 draft that can go up to a second round pick if Wentz plays 70% of the snaps. So outside of a fender bender, Carson Wentz is going to be the starting quarterback. I don't see a scenario where he's not the starting quarterback in Washington, in the Washington, D.C. area of Landover, Maryland. So more likely than not, he's the guy in 2022. Otherwise, why would you have bothered to trade for him? So let us discuss. Carson Wentz goes from Colt to Commander. Has Washington improved the quarterback position tangibly? And I'm shaking my head. No. I've got Beater, Haley's Comet, and Headgear. And we're going to put all of these things together and confuse you is what we're going to do. So A, best case scenario. I'll be Benny Brightside. All right? I'll be Benny Brightside for a second. If I am talking to only you, a fan of a team that used to be called the Redskins and the football team and now Commanders, this is best case scenario, a lateral move. That you still suck at quarterback, but you're not worse at quarterback. And Carson Wentz had a good defense and a stable of good running backs, one in particular, Jonathan Taylor, was really good. And in that Indianapolis offense, he was a decoy. He was a decoy for the Colts. And then when the Colts needed him to step up in a couple of games at the end of the year, he took a ride on the Vomit Comet and couldn't get it done. And it's hard to imagine outside of the occasional good game. Like maybe Carson will come out and thrash the Eagles just to annoy the people in Philadelphia. But outside of that, I don't think it's going to be any different. It's not like they have pixie dust in Washington. I believe there's a big graveyard there where quarterbacks go when they play for the NFL team in Washington. And changing laundry, especially this new laundry, which is just like a dopey, generic NFL uniform with no originality, and it doesn't pop. It's just blah. It's just filler is what it is. Now, Dan Snyder, I have no doubt that Dan Snyder, the owner there, had visions of sugar plums, otherwise known as Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, dancing through his head. He shot his shots. One of the shots was an air ball. The other shot was a brick. And so rather than be left empty-handed, rather than scrounge around and get leftovers in free agency, the head honcho of the Commanders naturally did what any executive does in life. Yeah, he panicked. And this move is oozing with desperation. What a debacle with a capital D. Carson Wentz still has value in the NFL, I guess, because of what he did in 2017. Spoiler alert! I mean, look, it's not 2017 anymore. It's not. And he has been able to be traded twice now in back-to-back years, belly-to-belly, back-to-back, eye-to-eye, living off past accomplishments. Of course, there's a saying that I believe is true. If you live in the past, you die in the present. The Colts learned that lesson last year. It looks like now the Washington football team is going to have to learn that lesson the harder way this year. And Carson Wentz, what kind of quarterback is he? I'll tell you. Carson Wentz is a beater at this point. Now, not an egg beater. He's like a beater car. He's been around for a few years now. He's had a lot of injuries. There's a lot of mileage there. There's some scratches. There's some dents. A little faded color because of the wear and tear, the excessive wear and tear. And you would have thought to buy a car, normally the whole point of buying a car like that, a beater car, is that it depreciates in value, that the depreciation kicks in and you get a good deal. But Carson Wentz is the beater quarterback, but you're paying a premium price. It's inflation, man. Try to buy gas right now. Carson Wentz, you know what he is? He's the penny stock that everyone's betting is going to turn out to be the next big thing. But not a long-term investment. You buy penny stocks, you're like, maybe it'll go up a couple of cents, but that's it. It's not going to, I'm not going to ride the coattails of this and all the way to the promised land. All right, now part B, from the Colts side of things. Takes a couple people to tango here. From the Colts side of things, this is a Halley's Comet situation. It is the rare trade where you get scratcher tickets and you have won the trade. All right, it's the white elephant gift that gets repackaged and you get the better gift. Every 75 years, Halley's Comet, 75, 76 years, Halley's Comet is visible to the naked eye. And every 75 years or so, you get a trade like this. Carson Wentz was a toxic asset. The Colts dropped the final 2 games of the season. And they lost to the Raiders and Jacksonville. They fell to 9-8. And that loss to Jacksonville is why this happened. The worst team in football. Big favorite. Game on the road. Nothing, Jacksonville's nothing to play for. And you're double-digit favorites. And you go out there and you puke all over the field, Carson Wentz. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Would have made the playoffs, could have made the playoffs, should have made the playoffs. Didn't. And so you had Frank Reich, the coach, and Chris Ballard, the big mouth GM there, who were both non-committal. We talked about it. We knew right away. We had said it. We said it. We yelled it into the microphones. When Frank Reich refused to commit to Carson Wentz, that was a bad sign. Then Chris Ballard refused to commit. These were all dead giveaways. But the biggest of them all was the owner, Jim Irsay, who wanted nothing to do with Carson Wentz. And Irsay would rather go out and buy, some old piece of equipment that John Lennon had and waste his money on that than pay Carson Wentz. And Wentz was going to be fired. He was going to be fired. He was getting the pink slip. It was an open secret. Now, in sports, they don't really fire players. They use more PC terms like released. But he was going to get fired. Every man, woman, and child that follows football even a little bit knows this to be true. The Colts must have thought when they got that text or that phone call, and hey, it's Chris Ballard, Colts GM. Yeah, hey, this is Dan Snyder. I would like to trade you multiple picks, 3rd and 2nd round picks, and I want Carson Wentz in return. Can we make that happen? I will put my microphone that I'm holding here. Well, I'm actually holding this up in the air, but I would bet that in my headphones that the Colts initially thought this was the Babylon Bee or Sports Talk Barry, that this was satire, that there's no way another NFL team would be that dumb to trade for Wentz. Like the Colts are probably thinking, boy, we're the idiots. We traded for this guy, but at least we had the Frank Reich excuse that our coach worked with him in Philadelphia. But what are they going to say in Washington? They don't even have that. All right, last word. So everybody knows one of the cardinal rules of a negotiation is you never bid against yourself. It shows weakness. It shows a lack of commitment. And that's how you lose a lot of money and a lot of. So, there's also an expression, it's been used a lot in dating. Why pay for the cow when you can have the milk for free? You'd have to ask Dan Snyder about that because apparently he likes to spend things that he can get for free. Because you could have gotten Carson Wentz. Again, he was going to get released. So I say fit Dan Snyder for some new headgear and get him a dunce cap because he's earned it with this. I know he's done some other things that have earned it, but this is another on the pile of accomplishments. More evidence that the greater fool theory is alive and well, which is great. If you've ever made a mistake, the greater fool theory can bail you out. Now, if you've never heard of the greater fool theory, it is very simple. It is a concept that in professional sports in particular, because we do sports, that players are traded from one fool to a greater fool until eventually they can't find another fool, and then at that point, the bottom falls out, trap door opens up, the value plummets. Well, clearly not at that point for Carson Wentz. He was traded from Philadelphia to Indianapolis for a third-round pick and turned out to be a first-round selection in this upcoming draft. And a year later, following a Chernobyl-like meltdown to close the year, Carson Wentz has been repackaged yet again. The white elephant, right? Put some wrapping paper on it, put it in a nice box, and someone's going to take it. And, is it going to be how many? We don't know because it depends how much he plays, but is it going to be a third rounder and a second rounder? How many? What are we looking at here? Essentially, his value has stayed the same because if you say it ends up being a second and a couple of third-round picks, maybe even two, depending on how it shakes out, two second-round picks, it's about equal. So his value really hasn't gone down. Essentially, his value has stayed the same, despite being a decoy, a stool pigeon. The Colts, they thought, hey, we know this guy. The Colts coaching staff, they were fully aware. They had intel on Carson Wentz, what made the man tick, and they thought they could tinker and fix the glitches. And after one season in Indiana, he overstayed his welcome. And so now enter the chat, Dan Snyder, the Washington football team, whatever they're called now. And they think they're going to tamper with Carson, and they're going to alter his performance. And just like the Colts, a year from now, we'll be like, well, who's going to be quarterback for the Washington Commandos or Commanders or whatever they are? Who's next? All right. Now, as for the Colts, who's next? Because they have a blank space on the bingo card at quarterback, and they have locked in their bullseye on Jimmy Garoppolo, which is not a terrible fit. Jimmy Garoppolo is not a terrible fit. He's a middling quarterback who people think is better than he is. And he could play a similar style with the Colts as in San Francisco, where when the Niners were successful, they had a defense that was playing well and a pretty good running game. And Garoppolo was just kind of there. But because he's a quarterback, people think he's better than he is, and Garoppolo would be a good decoy. He would be pretty good at that. That's what he did in San Francisco. So if he goes to Indianapolis, that would be a case where he has a good defense. You got a good running back, and got Garoppolo. People think you're going to be better than you are. Now, if I was in charge of the Colts, I would say forget Garoppolo. I want excitement. I want touchdowns. I would take a shot on Jameis Winston. I would. I would take a shot, and I would play Winston similar to how the Saints did. I would open up a little bit more. The Saints they never took the training wheels off Jameis Winston. But I would, if I was the Colts, I would be more inclined to go that direction. As you can play the conservative game, but you can also, if you have to, throw the bazooka up and have a grand time with famous or not so famous Jameis.